Okay, so first up, Christina, you have the roll call on.
Yes.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Then we have consideration of two sets of minutes, the first from the 11th of September and then the second from the 25th. Any comments on the meetings from the 11th?
Motion to approve. Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve the September 11th meeting.
Second. Peter gets the second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed or abstentions?
Sorry, which ones were these for the last?
The 11th.
I was there for that one. Yes, I
Okay,
approve.
you're in favor. All right, that should be in.
Sorry,
It's the second set from the 25th.
that's the one I meant.
Appreciate it. Any comment on those minutes? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Hey, Peter.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Those in favor? And abstaining?
Not there.
So wait, so are we?
Yeah.
Let's see,
Yeah,
try
we
that
don't
again.
know.
Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
5 in favor, none opposed, 4 abstaining. The motion carries. All right, this is the point in the agenda in which I take sort of a backseat, I think. Well, I hope the meds are kicked in there for your headache.
Yeah. I've been doing it all day, so I'm all right.
I checked this with Bridget. She confirmed that I have very few chairperson responsibilities tonight. So we'll turn over then to Paul to talk about the October 20.
Yeah, so quick update. I think dry run went really well. I think we were all super happy with the feedback. We're feeling good, so we summarized the feedback, we made the adjustments. Some quick tweaks, which are they're inconsequential. I think they actually add to the experience Evan mentioned, which we're going to do for the pedestrian maps. We're gonna add a second copy. So people can do they can mark their near misses they've had with cars or dangerous intersections. We're not gonna make that a new station. That will just be an add-on to that station. So that's the first tweak, which is logical and makes perfect sense to me. The second tweak is as people exit, we mentioned, and I think we agreed last time, they will get Bridget's memo about 1829 as a parting gift. So so they can read it when they get home. We're going to put an easel behind that table that also says anything else on your mind and allow people to have a free flowing sticky on anything else on your mind. So it makes more sense coherently as an exit place. In addition to that, we would have 2 people from your committee man the exit station to give them the information, invite them to put anything else on their mind. And if they want to chit chat with you, you are readily available to have face-to-face contact. So that's where we are. Everything's trying to be fine. I did, as a side note, give Bridget some even more copies of the revised survey. So those are in Bridget's hands. Those will be in the open house for people to do for the resident open house. And what I need from you is we just have a sign up sheet on who will man each station. So it makes sense that Evan's going to be one of the 2 people to man the station on pedestrian and bike paths. We just need everybody to sign up because we don't want you to show up and just pick the station. We want you to commit to it now so you know mentally what you're doing. We'll be here 45 minutes before, so we ask that you get here probably 15 minutes before. Hopefully you walk into a room that all you have to do is take your seat where you belong, but that will be your station for the entire night. So I think what I'm asking of you is Bridget has a sign up sheet. If we can get people to volunteer each station, 2 for each station, which I can recapture again.
There were so many people absent.
Yep.
and
Yep,
So we envision people coming in through this door.
I'm gonna stand up as you say it, because I think it's holiday. Yep, in through the door.
In through this door,
Yep.
out the back door.
Yep,
Now, is there a greeting station?
there is. Yep.
And maybe you can just enumerate all the different stations.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So the idea is we're gonna break this down a little bit because this is not welcoming. So this is gonna broke into the station. So we have a greeting station that needs to be manned. We're 2 people.
I would be happy to be a greeter.
Perfect. This is what we're looking for. Yeah. So a greeting station.
Yeah.
This right here will be pedestrian mapping exercise. right here.
Yeah.
And then just like we had on the back wall, we're gonna use this as the visual preference survey that has all of the different pictures. And then we'll move some of these tables so they're over here. And this will be the growth map where you want to see growth in Cumberland. And then this will be the exit station where they pick up Bridget. This will be, everything I'm saying has two people on it, by the way. This will be pick up Bridget's memo. There'll be easel right here that says, what else is on your mind? So if they want to gripe about something or do an improvement, that will be here as well. Just like there's two greeters, there should be two exiters. And that would be this station. I think,
Go ahead, finish up.
Yeah. I think I'm bringing four of us, at least three of us. We're gonna try to take notes on any verbal interactions. So we will be kind of between stations to just have things in our ears and we'll just take notes and I'll summarize those. In addition to everything we're doing, you'll get a summary of things that we heard. My guess is you're gonna have people want to talk your ear off about certain things. That's why you're here. And we'll try to capture that at some level, so that feedback doesn't just get lost in the abyss. So that's the current setup. And we did the dry run, so you guys can picture that all. Yep.
Activities for kids and snacks?
Oh, I'm sorry, and there's a fourth grade activity. Bridget, you're gonna take that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I did coloring sheets. I have little trinkets for the kids, and then I still have I have the fourth grade activity for anybody who wants to participate.
I'm sorry, I forgot all that,
So-
yeah.
We can do it when I
Walk them up there.
do it in that room.
Do you need us to bring snacks? Like, do you need-
No, I'll get, do you want dinner? I'll bring dinner. Do you want dinner? Or do you bring
Okay.
dinner for everybody? Like
I,
five to eight?
you do something.
Like, you all want dinner.
Just don't eat.
I'm gonna want dinner, and then I'll have.
What do you
I'll
want, you like
get-
pizzas or something?
I'll get snacks for people who come in.
Baking? Sure.
And I'll get just snacks for folks who come in.
Okay.
So I will feed you all,
That's nice. Thanks.
but I won't feed dinner to like residents who come in.
Just a reminder, they have that authority meeting at 3 in this room.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll be here.
1999.
And can I probably work around them in some, is it just around the table?
Well, they'll all be sitting at the dais and they're gonna be on camera.
Is it just an hour?
Hopefully, we'll make it an
They've
hour.
been about an hour.
I mean, I'm only need 20. Cause I'm gonna have us and three other teams on there, so we'll get it done. All right.
I can be here early
Yeah,
as well.
right. If you got, yeah, if anybody wants to help, that's fine. So yeah, so I think, and if you're close enough with somebody that's also on this committee that you think you could volunteer them for one of these positions, because we might not have enough tonight, then please do, and then we'll cross that bridge if we get to it, if only one of you shows up. But it's important to kind of have the structure and to know who's at what station, so.
So you want volunteers at this point?
Yeah, Bridget has a sign up sheet.
Yep, I have take down right now with a greeter, so one other greeter.
Do the trails on sidewalks.
I have Evan with Sidewalks Trails. Anyone else want to do that?
It's really fun.
We need a second one for sidewalk trail.
It's not too late. Somebody's coming in.
Can we volunteer somebody?
Whoever walks in,
Whoever walks in right now has.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, you know Jesse will be into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Board meeting that night.
Let's question mark, because I don't know if he's available because it's school board, but
Is there a school board that night?
It's a Monday night.
Our-
So no, all right, great.
our relationship can handle it.
That's what I was looking for, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
We've got the visual preference exercise.
so the back wall.
That's for like housing arrangements and stuff?
There's on all, like, there's gonna be probably 40 different housing types. that you-
Okay, I'll do that. Because you know what you're doing.
It's just,
I think having three on that would be okay.
yeah, it's a time space.
Okay, and then we've got
Because they're gonna get
the
wackadoo.
development map. Where do you want to see
I
development?
like that.
I would like that.
Bird.
This is shaking out like perfect.
Okay, and then exit,
These are what you might see in a-
Exit.
Very nice.
Pete and Scott.
Great.
You're in.
Okay.
Like LBA.
Yes.
What do you have?
Okay, Greener, Tig and Steve. We'll also maybe like have a notepad and a pen and like, actually that's for
We
everybody.
probably should all do that, right?
Everyone have,
Can you bring notepads?
Tig and Steve Greeter. Lorraine, Meg, Kathy, visual preference, sidewalks and trails, near misses, Evan, Jesse, with the question mark. Jane and Bill, development map. Pete and Scott, exit.
It might be good to put Bob on the development because he knows lots about that.
Sure, yeah.
It's good to do.
Who was on
Mr.
yesterday?
Elder?
I saw it yesterday.
I'm driving by my house.
And then
Yes.
we'll have at least 5 folks. It sounds
Yeah, I
like.
would also say, like, if somebody's not here tonight and wants to be here as a committee member, tell them they're a floater and just tell them they can just help us. They can just help us mill around. We don't want to interact with the president, so the floaters can just also just be a base, a Cumberland base that could just, you know.
And then we'll have a kid sort of area.
Do you need that staffed?
Do we have a kid who has do we have a kid?
I can bring it.
Can I have kids?
Doesn't the pig have kids?
Yes, I have children.
Do we have a kid that can watch kids?
Oh, no. Okay, I have a kid who can
Hold on to him,
disrupt.
Put her on the payroll.
I'll do our math homework. We'll strike a deal.
Should we have like name tags or something identifying us as
Yes.
members of the thingamabob?
Great idea.
I'm sorry, committee.
Jerseys.
So
Oh,
it
God.
strikes me that the wall with 45 or so pictures is going to be complex. Is it understood that it's displaying affordable housing styles or just housing styles generally?
Just general.
It's general. So there'll be multifamily, there'll be rural development, there'll be a large house on 4 acres. There'll be street frontage.
I added in a modular bill.
Yeah, Bridget sent us some to round out because of the feedback that we received. Yeah.
And the prompt, the written prompt is like, what would you like to see in Cumberland,
Yeah,
right?
yep, yeah, and then there's green and red and you can tell us why, yeah, so. And they're gonna be mixed up, so you don't wanna organize all the multifamily together and then, right, the idea would be to keep them somewhat mixed up, so there's not an effort to get your eye to look at one or the other.
Would it make sense to, not that we don't want the kiddos around here, but depending on the age range, would it make more sense to have kind of a area that's a little bit away, especially if we're having a conversation?
Probably do like that corner the conference room, yeah.
We can do the other conference room.
It might just after the resident, that last year when we did the resident orientation, or we're not calling it the new resident orientation, but there were a lot of kids milling around. Not that we don't love children, but it can be a little bit bonkers for the parents, especially if they're trying to do an activity versus have a one-on-one conversation. So it might just be nice to.
Is there an issue that they'd be out of sight? Do you think that would be
Yeah.
weird?
I mean, I'm like happy with mine around.
Well, me too.
There's
They can still be in.
Oh, if the wall is
area.
down, yeah.
We
Yeah.
put a wire fence around it.
We can use shot calls.
If there's a parent that's concerned about having their child out of sight, they will just keep them.
That's
Bring a herding dog.
Right. Are there any holding stalls in the police station downstairs?
Common misconception. Yeah, we got all the portraits.
Yeah, I know.
Is there a jail cell downstairs?
I'm laughing is that, our old fraternity house at URI got turned into a police station in our social room, which the holding cell was quite appropriate.
All right, we're in good shape.
Looking forward, is this the game plan for the event in November in West Cumberland?
So I think that's the next agenda item. So we can transition right to that.
Right. No, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's perfect. I
I'm gonna be there. Oh, that's right. I'm gonna be, I'll be as a floater for about the first hour and a half, but that's right. We're doing Yo-Yo Ma that night.
Good for you.
Well, somebody's gotta do it. Thank you for reminding me.
How'd you know you had to go to Yo-Yo Ma?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You guys are so tight-knit around here. This is very confusing. So to Steve's point, the next part of the agenda is, the hope would be, we have November 16th, 18th as number 2 event. So we're about to launch on October 20th. That's what we're talking about. We finalize that event. So on the 18th of November, that's number 2. So I think tonight, if we could get there or close to there, if we have enough stuff for me to do a dry run of this new event, next time I see you, that would be the idea, right? So I think that worked pretty well. I think we have a good cadence. So if we can follow along that path and help frame what event number 2 is, I can come in 2 weeks and do another dry run, get a ton of feedback, make you guys feel like we're in a good spot. If it's not 2 weeks, if it's 4 weeks, that's okay too. But I think in 2 weeks, we're perfectly capable of doing it. And if that worked, I think we should do that tonight. Would be, what does November 18th look like? And then so I can come in 2 weeks and say, okay, let's do the dry run. Let's get on our feet. Let's see if it works and give me your feedback.
It's 2.
Paul, are you envisioning a fundamentally different event on the 18th or a repetition for a different neighborhood?
Yeah, I think that's, I think it would, that's a good question. I'm envisioning a different topic. So I think what the committee had talked about is more towards investment, meaning tax, where do we spend our tax dollars, and what do we do about with commercial growth? So I think that's been the working idea. You're the committee, you guys can choose, pivot towards that, but I think what the last couple of times we've talked about it, it was gonna be, hey, can we drill down a little bit into appetite for like the top 5 infrastructure investments from the survey? And can we talk about commercial development in certain parts of town?
I thought we were gonna transition, I guess maybe we don't have enough information. But I thought, we were gonna do some stuff on 1829 too.
Well, the difficulty with that is, not knowing what the legislature's going to do, tune it up. And we don't want to get people frightened or, reacting too strongly on something that may not come to pass after a while, or maybe addressed.
Is that the intel that you're getting that the legislature is going to tune up coming
Well,
up?
I mean, I think that's sort of.
That's what I heard, yeah.
I think it's a realistic
Yeah,
expectation.
that it was a little bit what was passed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think everybody's expecting some sort of edit to come down the pike here.
Well, I wonder if for the town crier purposes, we should identify the stations or the topics for the 20th meeting. And similarly, the same thing for the 18th meeting. So that people will understand that we're not doing the same thing twice.
Right.
Yeah.
But that if you have these issues in mind, this is the night you want to be there. And if you're, holding out for other things, go to the second one, something like that. Otherwise, people may well walk into the second meeting and say, I missed the discussion the first time. I'm anxious to hear it again this time. So it's kind of, you get one opportunity.
Yeah.
Major topic.
Agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so if that could be done, through Whitney, I guess.
For next week.
Yeah, so next Thursday's prior.
Yeah.
Would have something in time for the meeting on the 20th.
Yeah.
And obviously plenty of time for the one in mid-November.
And if there's something on the 20th that like you really want to keep going, just let's keep it going.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. So there's nothing stopping you guys.
I guess reserve the right
Yeah.
to, based on our first night's
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
to modify the second night.
Right.
So Lorraine,
So I just wanted to pull the string on two things. One was an earlier email from Bridget that had the videos that came out of New Hampshire that kind of dealt with, what, who lives in workhouse, or workforce, housing or affordable housing, and that might be, depending on what goes on over here with the pictures and whatever, we could maybe continue the conversation. And I think we have that email from a resident about affordable housing that we were gonna talk about tonight.
Yep.
And then the other thing, Tig, I was gonna pull the string on, we tried to deal with the extending of the hours in, the Main Street commercial, area and didn't really get there. And I know you wanted to kind of use the comprehensive plan as maybe a sounding board or a place to do that. So, in the commercial piece, the November meeting, that maybe that could be something that is on a board or something so that you get some more data on, that growth area.
We would really appreciate that.
Yeah, because we didn't ask the question in the survey. And I think, planning board said ixnay, no nay, and then threw it back to you guys. And then there was a lot of discussion and then, we kind of stalled.
We ended up in the place that the comprehensive or our zoning has to reflect the goals of the comprehensive plan. And so therefore, the place to look at the hours for all of the zones is in the comprehensive comprehensive plan. And then we can adjust our zoning and ordinance.
Yeah,
accordingly.
so, and I think right now we don't have any data to give you because we didn't ask about it in the survey. So the only place we're gonna get that for you is possibly one of these engagement nights.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a possibility. We have a lot of anecdotal data from the two meetings that we held around Rise Pizza. That's
Mhm.
obviously in the TCD, so that's not indicative of the other zones.
Right.
But if there's any way, I don't know if it's like beans and jars.
The TCD is the only zoning district right now that has hours of operation limitations.
Mhm.
so it's wide open everywhere else.
It is wide open everywhere else.
But it's still the question of, do you want it to be wide open in all the other zones?
Sure.
Right? Like maybe people do, maybe people don't. I don't know, but I think if we're looking at consistency across all zones or if we're looking at changing any of the zones, I would think it would be worthwhile to open that up to all the zones.
Yeah.
Or but do you see that as the issue from a planning perspective?
No.
I wanted to ask the question. This is your.
No, in commercial districts, we can ask the question.
Mhm.
Question.
I just think, I know people are still talking about it. I've overheard conversations at the Daily Bar, at my dentist's office, so it's still percolating out there. And so where do we give people the opportunity to continue to give information that influences where we go with that?
It seems like it's a pretty contentious issue.
Yes.
And I mean, we have to address it, and we can't just keep kicking the kids down
Yeah.
the road on, especially when there are businesses that are trying to, be sustainable and bring in revenue, right?
Yeah, agreed. So anyway, just wanted to throw those two things out.
Okay, quickly,
Process.
before somebody else.
Yeah. Process, no, you're fine. Process question, timeline question. Our intention, I'm trying to remind myself, is to have 3 public engagement sessions total, correct? And 2 of them in the fall and 1 of them in the spring, or
Yeah.
like post holidays?
Yeah, I think there's 2 before the holiday.
2 before the holidays and then 1
And I
following
would say the
holidays.
last one's gonna be like, hey, what do we need to circle back on, right? Because
Okay.
I would assume you're gonna have the first draft close by the time that spring rolls around, or at least underway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after
All right.
these 2 sessions,
So, yeah,
I
it's
think
like, are
we
we
start,
saving
then we
anything?
start writing.
Okay.
I mean, we can save. I mean, I was thinking we would have 2 sessions in the late January, February. But
Yeah, I mean, staff wise, we're okay with either.
Depends.
Yeah, I think it
But
depends on.
following up on Steve's comment, so like as we're saying to the public, like we are having further 2 more sessions this fall to get more feedback one night is going to be around this issues, one night is going to be around this issues. We're not even marketing that there's going to be another opportunity in the spring, but we might decide as a committee to have another one and, okay, so we need to feel fully confident that we got most of what we wanted in these two.
Well, you have two more, and I mean, it
But
could
we
be a
have two more.
repeat. If these went so
Okay.
well, you could just do this again with small tweaks too, right? So,
But we're not holding anything for the spring.
No, and
We're going for it in these two sessions.
I know, like, at least from the council perspective of what we've been saying to the public is that I wrote in an email that we expect to have two more in the winter.
Okay,
So two in the fall and then at least two more. I think that our expectation from our council was that hopefully, I think that we talked about even up to 6 at one point.
okay.
I'm not saying we need to do 6, but I think the public outreach is really important. I think the
Sure.
community expects that.
Sure, but I'm also just thinking about as like the person reading the crier, am I like, I went in November, so I don't need to go again? Or like, how many are these? How many times am I gonna have to go? Like us being kind of clear in our communication about how many they're going to be and what they're for seems important to the average citizen as well as us to understand. Yes.
And I think before we get to the stage of making recommendations, or at least floating recommendations before we actually make them, there ought to be one or two public events
Yeah,
and solicit opinion on that.
yeah.
And these would be not simply open house type things, but rather an event that starts at a certain time and is projected to end at a certain time. And much as you do public discussion at the start of each meeting, our meeting would be to convene, we would convene and then open it up for questions.
and to Steve's point, you can have people react to what some of the working rough draft takeaways are, right? And then it can be a more structured.
Okay.
Here are our 3 takeaways for this topic, 3 takeaways for this topic. Now you guys have your,
Okay.
now
Yeah.
you stand and deliver for us what your take is. And that might be the format of the springtime. And it might make more sense because you're gonna have some stuff on paper. So my initial reaction is like, that would be a perfect second set. And then it is a natural, logical progression from these two, which are open house, free flowing. Okay, we think we heard you, but now we want to get, nitty gritty, give us that direct feedback to the words that we put on paper.
Yeah.
And to Steve's point, let Steve run the meeting, let him actually run a meeting, like a meeting to do it.
Right.
So that could be it. And then you're not stuck with this unclear, like, what are we doing in the spring topic wise?
Yeah, right.
I think that's
And
a
we
good idea.
should be, goal is to have a good draft by April, which has to go to planning board first and then council.
So then now we're talking some pretty good logical steps.
What did you call the event on the 20th in the crier?
Public input open house.
Okay.
I can focus it on some topic areas and then talk about what we're gonna do in November.
Yeah.
Like if we're focusing more on
I think-
commercial development and investment in. I don't know if we want to announce that to people. But
Well,
I think that is important.
Why not?
But
I
if you read, you want to know what to go to. Yeah.
And I think the addition of what is that called? The noise ordinance? What's your what's the ordinance called?
Zoning,
It's a
No nightlife.
operating out. The lights are off at 9:00.
hours of operation restriction in the town center.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you could advertise, if you're gonna solicit, if that's gonna be a station, advertise that as a topic. And you'll get your feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up noise ordinance, we'll see what happens with that, because that might be something that people want as well, so.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
I take it back. I didn't mean it. I just didn't know what it was
I
called.
don't think,
Right,
maybe.
But that's good just to have I think if we
Yeah.
have the extra flexibility of doing it, an additional session or two, in addition to Steve's idea of this is where we're going, this is kind of what we've codified. There may also be, I imagine, topics or things we want to drill into a little bit more after these 2 sessions that maybe we didn't get enough data on or weren't necessarily on our radar, but we might want to dig into a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but.
You could say that Steve's suggestion are like your last 2 and to be determined on if, what what precedes the last two that Steve mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, our contract says we're doing 6 for you. So so I'm prepared to do up to 6, right? So that's fine with me.
Mhm.
I do think Steve's idea of pulling it together,
Totally.
like making it structured and say,
Yeah.
react to these is the right move. And I like that you maintain the flexibility,
Mhm.
And maybe these are so successful that you're like, we're gonna essentially do a reiteration. Or maybe they're so unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Do a reiteration.
We're sitting here eating pizza all by ourselves.
See what I did there?
Yeah. I'm thinking, what if it was like public input, fall open house, session 1 of 2, and then session 1, housing growth, whatever, session 2, maybe 1 visual, 2 dates.
Your concern is making sure it's really clear that we're tackling 2 different topics on 2 different
Yeah.
dates.
Yeah.
So like when I read the crier, I'm like scanning, what things do I want to go to? Yeah, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
and if it's like fall open house, then if it's like spring open house, or winter open
I
house,
just did
maybe
the-
that,
already did the-
I just did that.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't know, I'm just thinking about how we're gonna,
Whitney can I would imagine Whitney can do that from a content perspective,
easily, yeah.
So take from the council's perspective, are you still thinking in terms of an April end date for our function?
But I think that's the hope, right? I think that's what it seems like everyone's working towards and we'd like to do. If the legislature comes out with something wild in terms of 1829 and totally changes the zoning expectations and we need to pivot or need a little bit of extra time, then that's something we can tackle, but I think that we should work towards that April date.
So we
Okay,
have a March, so we back up. We have a March draft to planning board. A month to make revisions before it goes to town council.
well,
I'm not a
And
writer,
then,
so.
the
Writers really.
and then more of a revision.
Yeah, I mean, what is
So you
it?
would, you probably will have a final.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're still looking at 3 months from the first draft, because inevitably, somebody on some elected body is gonna have an issue with a couple sentences.
well, just understand that in 26, the legislature adjourns on the 3rd Wednesday of April, and that all kinds of weird stuff happens on the final day of session. So I'm serious. It's not going to be until 6:30 on the morning of April 4th, Thursday, following the 3rd Wednesday, that you're going to know what they really did.
Yeah.
The way it works.
What was the date on that again?
The 3rd Wednesday of April by law is adjourned, is when the second session is supposed to adjourn. However, if you're not done by midnight, the day continues as the 3rd Wednesday into the wee hours and then the breaking of dawn until people just give up. And so it's really that Thursday as a practical matter that turns out to be the final, that's when the final gavel comes down. And a lot, as I said, Kathy, a lot of strange, unexpected stuff will happen in that 24-hour day.
The only thing for a March deadline, I think, and I don't know how we do this, but there are probably going to be a half a dozen things that are going to be they're going to be confrontational or just controversial.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that at least by January, we need to identify those, because I think at that point, it's something that, a subcommittee may be dealing with. But before we get too far down the road, it's probably something that the entire committee needs to resolve, because, and there probably, as I say, be a half a dozen of them. And so we
Yeah.
need to get past that, or it's going to hold up the getting the thing done on time. And I don't know what those issues are, but there will be 3 or 4.
Right, well, thinking ahead or envisioning the final document, we know that by law, we have certain mandatory chapter titles. We can add to that list at our discretion. A lot of those chapters are informational in nature and will have non-controversial and fairly
Right.
predictable recommendations. Others, like affordable housing, and
Land use zoning.
yep, exactly, will require more detailed recommendations and a lot of explanation on our part as to why we opted for that recommendation or not something else instead. So I expect nothing coming out of marine resources, but it's a mandatory chapter.
Which we've assigned to COG to write for us. And then we'll review it and
Yeah.
that could be that.
Oh, yeah,
So there's some,
sure.
My interpret, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna, we said March timeframe for an initial draft being given to the planning board. Do we do a public hearing on that draft?
I don't,
yes.
Or is it for our review and
Yeah, I
edit?
mean, it's our,
Is
yeah.
it this the question?
it would be for our review and public hearing
Yeah,
and you guys would be there.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
so,
there's gonna be some reaction. You guys are, yeah, my guess is that first draft's not gonna come out as you presented it. Like, there'll be a couple things where elected bodies or people or the planning board, or you might get some blowback and then you're gonna take a couple months to adjust those. I mean, that's part of the process. I mean, there's gonna be a point in the process where you feel like you have to press the reset button because of 2 or 3 controversial stuff, and that's when you guys as a committee are gonna have to, bring it across the finish line wherever way you feel necessary. But yeah, public hearing is absolutely fine.
yeah, but let me express the thought, which may or may not be the same thing as you
Yeah,
just
sure,
said.
yeah.
But I don't see us going to the planning board for formal input before we have produced our final report.
Yeah.
Now, you are a liaison. And your job in part is to keep your colleagues informed and to bring back any feedback to us as we progress. After one or more public hearings, we will vote on a final plan, which then goes to the planning board for your action. I have no problem in planning board and council, because you're a liaison as well, members, really intensifying their participation in this effort as we build toward a conclusion. But I don't see intermediary meetings with either the board or the council before we are finally done.
Right.
Tell me if
So we-
I'm
No,
off
that's my
base.
understanding.
I 100%.
Well, the final copy in March. Our comp plan committee has signed off on.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like we're using rough draft one would be the final copy, the first, the,
First draft.
Consideration of the final.
which if it sails through, then you're done.
Of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
so the only, correct me if I'm wrong, from a procedural, standpoint, the only way that Peter and I communicate to the remaining members on the planning board has to be in an open session. We don't have private meetings or private correspondence or anything like that. So it would be at a public meeting, which therefore leads to public comment.
Well, of course.
Yeah, okay,
That's right. I mean, our meeting,
okay.
in spite of the empty chairs, are open to public. And so I think, as you get into the late winter or spring, your agenda should either begin or conclude with a report from planning board liaison members of the comp plan committee,
Mhm.
and the same with the council.
Yep.
I should recall it.
Mhm.
Right over them.
Yes.
Forgive them.
So when our committee signs off on the draft in March, are we done or do they, so it goes to the planning board, then we have to make edits or are they making edits directly?
Well, first of all, my thinking is that we not have a final report until after the legislature is adjourned. Otherwise, we're gonna look a bit foolish in having to drop back
Yeah.
after having passed a purported final report.
So not much.
I think that's the sacred.
Not
I think that's the
Okay.
thing to do. So March is not my idea, the final our final role.
First of May, but
Instead, I think that by late April, we do meet the council's timeframe, adopt a final recommended plan. It then goes to the planning board, and it's on your agenda as to hear or to conduct a public hearing on the comp plan committee's final recommended report. To answer your question, Meg, I think we then show up en masse before the planning board at one or more, it may take you more than one meeting. But for each time that you consider your board's position on our report, we should all, many of us should all plan to be there. And then you will vote to make changes or not, and then pass it on to the council. And we do the same thing with the council. When it's on the council's agenda, we show up en masse to answer questions, talk about alternatives that we considered and maybe, chose one over the other for the following reasons. But I think, Megan, we actually continue not with meetings of our own, unless something exceptional comes up, but we continue to be active participants for as long as it takes the council ultimately to adopt a final plan.
Okay, that's helpful.
And then I believe that part of, so consumed with 1829, 1751, the Growth Management Act, recent changes includes that, or says that a comp plan will have an implementation plan. And so, depending on what happens there, well, my job's certainly not over, but, your jobs may not be over because maybe a piece of this committee wants to do some like implementation. Maybe the recommendation is come up with a comp plan implementation committee, similar to what Yarmouth has done, and then, have a plan, we move forward. So
And to editorialize on that, a good comp plan should point towards the implementation.
Right.
If it doesn't lay it all out, it should at least point to,
Right.
this is the steps.
Right.
So
Good point.
otherwise, it's not a good comp plan in my humble opinion.
just,
I have a question, and I'm not sure how it's been done in the past. So what is the expectation on kind of the review cycles, first from the planning board and then from the council? Just knowing that people do like to digest some things, is the expectation that they've read this draft, there's this meeting where everyone is here, and they are expected to make changes kind of in that moment or at the next meeting, and just knowing our current group likes a little bit of time to digest, think things through and not make on the fly decisions. I want to make sure that I'm communicating that out to them as well around what we expect of them to be prepared to do during those first draft reviews. Is there a particular process? Do you have recommendations, expectations that we should be aware of?
Okay, I think if you, and Peter, you may or not agree with this, having been through this multiple times in the past, but I think you track in the past the dates on which a comp plan committee has finished its work and the town council has ultimately adopted the plan. There is a smaller or larger gap of time,
Okay,
which is not prescribed.
Yep.
And is not foreseeable in advance,
okay,
but inevitably is required.
Yep.
For you guys to do your job, for the planning board to do its job first, it's gonna take some time
Okay.
after we are officially done.
okay, great.
Well, I think the interesting thing that there is that if you read our planning board agendas, that we have every bit of detail on these plans. That we see, the public sees the same thing we do. So I would envision that in that agenda, pressing a button, that the public will be able to see the entire comprehensive plan as part of our agenda. So that's, and the ones that don't, we say in Vietnam, Dinh Loy, which means expletive. But anyway, so they're gonna have a good chance once they, so at that point, again, it would be an agenda item and one would expect, a pretty good crowd to show up and, we would take notes and I do see this evolving over time. I don't see this thing done in one thing because I think the board would want to digest and then saying, well, they've got a pretty good point on that or sending back. So I don't see this a one meeting type deal.
Dave, the only thing I'd add to that is nothing stopping you as chair of calling a workshop and not having it on as an agenda item. Right, so you could do 1 week, you're doing a working workshop where you're digesting, talking out loud, talking about specific lines, clauses, and then it's on the agenda. So I recommend that to you. So
Okay.
you have that time for it to breathe.
Yeah.
To Peter's point, they should be reading it anyways, but that processing shouldn't be in real time and like amending it in real time. It should be, hey, we did a workshop, we know these, everybody knows what's coming. You'll also know, by the way, if you're at an impasse, but like you'll pretty much know what needs to be tweaked or what the concerns are.
Actually, that's a valid point, kind of like what we did with a couple of like for the school site. plan.
Right, exactly. It should be a work.
So I could see 1 or 2 workshops before it even,
Or joint workshop.
yeah,
Totally. And I think that's a great idea. My concern wasn't as much about people not reading it and it is more, we often do have a lot of people come to public comment
Yeah.
that have a lot of things that they want to put out and we'll talk about things and people will then go off and digest, but a lot of that is organic through conversation.
Yeah.
That is very different from prepping.
I think that's why you do your workshop.
And that's why, yes, as long as it's a workshop that is also open to the
100%,
public,
yeah.
which is our normal format typically. So
Scarborough took 2 years to adopt their plan. 2 years after.
I
the
don't
committee
want that
was
to
on.
happen here.
Mhm.
Okay,
Just being reasonable,
It
right?
was
It's
COVID,
what's-
so it was COVID.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a year after, like, it was 9 months of nothing, and then but there was turnover on the council. So all of a
Yeah,
sudden you have a whole new
sure.
political
Yeah,
climate.
it's really different.
I was gonna say, and we have rules of engagement, we have to give the public sufficient notice that it's going to be an agenda item. And then if we discuss it at that meeting and we don't make a decision and it carries to the next month, it gets advertised again. So like if we wait till April to kind of, finalize, it may not be on the May agenda. It could be not until June that it hits the planning board agenda. Because if it happens, if we're still making changes in April, it might not meet the deadline for the May meeting advertisement. And that pushes it into June.
but I definitely see, as far as the planning board, 1, if not 2 workshops on
Yeah.
this, depending. I think what we do is we digest what comes out of that first workshop and the discussions with you guys and all this other stuff, and then see what develops with the second. If we see something that's a real flashpoint, that, again, we can kind of talk this out, but yeah, that's a good point. We would probably have 1 or 2 workshops at the least.
Suggestion.
Yeah, just back to just getting granular on the dates. So you said it's the 3rd week in April that the legislature,
So the 3rd Wednesday.
the 3rd Wednesday. Okay, so that's the 15th, and then the following week is school vacation. So then we have the 27th, 28th, 29th, and Thursday, the 30th. So are we delivering a final product by April 30th? Or is that a loose goal? I
think the council, I'm
Or we-
looking for the charge, and I couldn't find it.
We're not gonna be
I
yelling
don't
at you
think-
about date stuff.
I don't think
Okay.
that's gonna be. a big
Okay.
deal.
Okay,
That will
great.
not be a big
But I think
Okay.
the whole month.
Okay, great. Okay.
Oh, 100, this is like
Yeah, great.
we're aiming for this milestone, right? And
Yeah, got it.
let's be practical, let's plan for it and be flexible.
Great.
Yeah, and if 1829 does get finalized, then we may need to
Right, and Bridget
make some changes. Yeah.
Bridget currently was thinking it would be its own chapter in the plan, so as not to interfere with the other chapters, so that theoretically we could tweak it on its own as things
Yeah.
evolve.
And my idea for the chapter is the full blown. This is what our zoning says, this is what it has to be. This is what our zoning says, this is what it has to be.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Because then we can just, then it passes in April, nothing changes with the document that's been written, at least for that LD 1829 chapter. And when we have to go to implement, we'll know exactly what changes need to happen across our 400-page code.
Yeah, because there's a piece in here, right? Because, the 18, I keep harping on it, but 1829 is so it's going to continue in some format, right? You didn't pass that legislation, it's just going to miraculously go away, right? So we can't ignore it. And not saying that we are. But to me, the rest of the majority of the plan is pretty pro forma, data driven, here's the housing stock. This is what housing looks like in Cumberland. This is how much open space you have. It's pretty boilerplate stuff, and there's going to be some places on recommendations that we're going to get out of workshops and things like that, but I think I agree we can get there in March and stuff like this, but this 1829 thing to me is like, it's a big deal. It changes the character. It has the potential to change a lot of the character of the town. And that, and what we talk about on growth areas, those two things right there are that's the fundamental thing that's coming up. Right? Great on, knowing when we're going to stay open till 10, right? I don't care if we're going to have another bike path. Great, it's good stuff. We need to do it, but how do we do the work to be ready to talk about what we're doing with 1829?
Well, the good
That's
news
the
is like, it's almost becomes just like a chapter that we write in the sense where there's nothing you can do about it. So like this side by side, comparison that Bridge is talking about is actually be pretty powerful, because it would say, look, this is what we would plan for our town.
Yes.
And this is what we have to do if required. And you give that to somebody like Bridget to do it.
Yeah.
Because really there's no committee work there. Like if that bad boy goes through, to your point, all of this gets blown up.
The only recommendation we can make,
Yeah, the growth.
as far as the committee is concerned,
Yes, the growth area.
is recommending what the growth areas are. So we've got existing growth areas right now. So the only thing that the committee would recommend is that we recommend that the growth areas stay as they are, or B, here are the recommendations that we have for the growth area. And then 1829 will tell us what we have to do in the growth area. So our big task, I would say two big tasks. One would be defining the growth area, because you're going to get, once East Cumberland sees they're in the growth area, that, there's going to be an awakening. And then the other is, as far as the RR areas, RR1 and RR2, do we keep them as 2 acres and 4 acres? Or do we do something else? So those are the two things that the committee can do: recommend changes in the growth area, and 2, recommend what we do, any changes in the conservation subdivision within the growth areas, within the RR areas, and then any changes in the lot sizes.
Yeah, it almost seems like 2 separate plans in a way, right? There's all the like boilerplate chapters, and then there's these other pieces, and it's almost like another, I don't want to say another committee, but it's a whole nother work stream, right? So how do we, let's get we can get the boilerplate stuff done by March, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
And then the other piece is that's really where the effort's gotta come in, I think,
Mhm.
you know, and how, but we can't just wait. Right, we've got to continue to kind of push on that and figure out what we're gonna do
Mhm.
on that as well, so. Just, we're thinking of this strategy piece there. How we move forward.
This all feels very worthwhile, but do we need tonight to know what the November meeting is gonna be
Hey,
like
you
in
took
West
the words out
Cumberland?
of my
Yeah,
mouth. If we could- if we-
that has to happen.
It doesn't have to happen. It would be helpful to know if I am ready to do a dry run. So if we could, I think what I was hoping to do is, can you give me enough material that we could do together some dry run exercises in preparation for November? So
I
to loop back to what we were talking about, it sounds like there was some talk about commercial development. We had I think, the fruitful addition of when can the pizza place stay open?
Stay
Right.
close.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're no longer
So
open.
No hours.
So we have commercial development, we have possibility of operational hours. We have some sort of exercise to, for tax-based questions on investment, which would come derived directly from the top 5 infrastructure investments suggested from the survey. And include no investment as one of the options.
Mhm.
So those are the 3 topics I have heard. If we can refine what the exercise would be, if there's a 4th exercise, that would be great.
I just have a question for you, if
Yeah.
that's okay. Do you feel like we're missing, and you've done these, right? Are we missing, there's some category of information we're missing?
I think what's important is that, what's your name again?
Bill.
What Bill was touching on, I think you're touching the ones that matter to people, and I think that's the most important part, right? And so like, so much of this is predictable. And the more that you can drill down on the hot button ones and the stuff that there will be controversy, and I think that so far, I feel like you guys have a pretty keen eye to that's
Okay.
what we're doing.
Okay.
So that's my initial thoughts. So, but I also think we might know after November 18th that,
Yeah,
you know, there's something else there.
yeah, okay.
But it's really about the public feeling like you did this to gather their input. And I think you're doing it on the stuff that typically would divide people, and that's the thought. Like that's, you know, so.
And in past years, Steve, when you've done this, the public engagement sessions,
Mhm.
is there a certain style or sort of activity you think we should be doing that is in here?
Well, I think when we convene in a meeting type format, with us at a table up front and a large crowd in the room, we would probably be taking up one by one the more controversial chapters, or the meatier chapters.
Yeah, okay. But that's in the spring, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone on the call?
No.
We probably should have, something around the school as we go to West Cumberland. So as like a fly trap. So when people come in, our friend comes in to complain about the school cost, we can have a table and I'm happy to sit there and get yelled at all night. So the other topics don't get drowned out.
I think, I mean, I don't know how much your comp plan's gonna speak to school, but I think strategically that makes.
And it
I think
doesn't have to be
strategically
school,
it
but
makes
like,
sense, just
okay,
for-
there's a question, because there's comments on here about concern about need for facilities. And
yeah.
we're talking about, one of the sections we ask about is town infrastructure investments, so we could have a table for that. As I just don't want other sections to get derailed by, I want somewhere where people can take and go. So I think that there will be a group of people that will show up that just want to talk about that one topic, so we might as well. Gotta have.
And I think you're calling it fly trap is actually perfect. So that's what it would be, yeah.
Because I think that a lot of times when, at the planning board, when we are, doing a subdivision review or whatever, a lot of the comments are, oh, you're gonna approve 10 houses, well, that's 50 more kids in the school, it's a trigger for people, when we talk about growth. And obviously, the new law is going to possibly lead to a lot more growth in parts of our town. And so people always link growth to children to school. Whether it's,
Factual or not.
yes, it's, yeah. We hear that a lot. So I think that you're right in having a place for that sort of feedback or commentary or whatnot to happen.
Especially if there's a organized group of people that plan on showing up to make a comment.
I think in that same vein of the fly trap, there's also a specific group within that particularly vocal group that has a feeling like things that are allowed in West Cumberland are not allowed in Cumberland Center from a zoning perspective. And that's one of the things like, so I think that when we talk about the commercial aspect, it has to be about all the different zones, because I think there is a feeling of inequity.
Yeah,
Which
sure.
is like, Cumberland Center can have these beautiful little coffee shops, but you put the marijuana out on Route 100. And so I think that will be a very, another robust topic of conversation, that we should figure out how to get good data out of it, like, you get all of it, right?
You know what that would look like in terms of, like, do you have an activity idea?
I do not. I'm
Yeah.
not the creative person, but I know what I want to get out of it, which
Yeah.
is just,
What do you want to get out of it?
I mean,
Put a bunch of marijuana in
I
the.
was gonna say a bunch of gummies in the middle.
You'll need more pizza.
but we have had feedback that the restrictions in the TCD from a commercial perspective are really, really restrictive. And that's one of the reasons why Rise closed. We've had feedback from Dara that it would be really great for them to be able to stay open to get another round of, they can do the 5 to 7, but then
Yeah,
they shut,
their
right? They can't do
seating,
their,
yeah.
they can't, what's the turnover?
Seating.
Yeah, and so like, is the town center district viable or not? And it's, right?
Yeah,
And is it
Megan, I said
fair
it.
that-
Really been talking
Is
about
there
this.
commercial, do we want commercial in town center district or not? And I think that's our decision to make.
And is it
And
fair
I-
that like there's
Frank, open, honest
Yeah.
statement.
I'm taking notes. I'm not texting, I'm taking notes.
It seems like we don't want businesses. When I have business owners coming to me and saying, this, your zoning is too restrictive, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. I'm looking at properties in Portland. What am I supposed to say to that? I'm really sorry. It's our law. It is written this way. I can't change that.
What are the restrictions?
We're gonna
Just
leave.
educate me. Will you
We're
educate
gonna
me?
leave and go to Portland.
Will you educate me about what are the restrictions
Well,
that?
Our sign ordinance for town center district is super restricted. Outdoor seating is very restricted.
Hours of operation.
Hours of operation. Yep,
literally number of seats is like spelled out of there. For like cafes.
number of seats for cafes, yeah, the what's allowed is restricted. The size of facilities is restricted. Like in the entire town of Cumberland, our zoning ordinance currently only allows 2,000 square feet of a fitness center. Sorry. Yeah, that's the size of my house, right?
It's like us working out, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Even on Route 1?
the definition of fitness center for us is it may not exceed more than 2,000 square feet.
So maybe there's pieces in there, Bridget, that
Well, that's.
if we're hearing those things, maybe those are things that we can plop on the table.
Yeah.
In front of us here so that we can maybe think about some of that stuff.
And I would like to, since we're here, invite business owners in town
Mhm.
to this meeting.
Yes, that would be another,
That's a good idea.
Because I know several, and I know several who have issues.
Well,
And I
that's
mean-
what we were talking about in our subcommittee too, is like, how do we get feedback from those people?
Yeah.
That's a good point. That was when, the last time we had our little subcommittee breakout, we were sort of stumped, I thought, I had started like just asking people on my own, but that's not very like
Yeah.
inclusive.
Yeah.
market an event, business owners, please come.
Legal, maybe.
Let me just jump in. You may remember
Eating, right?
a meeting some months ago when I gave you the history of the Cumberland, Maine Business Association. Big, big idea that Bill Shane had. Started off with a massive gathering at Valhalla. And, we took input and so forth, crafted, some changes toward the commercial end. And then it basically sort of phased out to nothing at all. The fact is we got, relative lack of interest in Route One, except for certain types of businesses. It allows fast food restaurants and so forth that they wouldn't be profitable. And then I gather that on Route 100, someone who might want to own and operate a cafe has chosen not to because of profitability issues, not zoning. And I think the zoning out there in 100 is relatively unrestricted. I don't know where.
I don't know about that one.
Well,
On the zoning?
I think you'll find it permitted.
Route 100, I didn't know that there was a way that was being operated that no longer because of restrictions.
Well, Kathy's family used to own the restaurant up there for some years ago.
Yeah, and our grocery store there actually was a restaurant there. And basically a hardware store there that, we was a store where you could find just about anything between the three of us kids running, a craft shop and a garden center and the grocery store, which was really what we call the country store.
Right.
So yes, and we was at that time open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. But originally, my father used to keep it open until 11 o'clock at night because he actually did get business. And the important thing is about parking because a tractor trailer truck could drive up
Yeah.
and get something late at night where you just can't do that over to Cumberland House of Pizza,
Right.
But I'm seeing the bigger trucks, especially the horse people at Cumberland Fair, that train all day long and stuff. They have the room to pull into Rusty Lantern. That's making a big difference in their business because people have a place to park. And it really does make me mad that parking is so limited. Even though, I know it costs money to put tar down, but you've got to provide parking for all kinds of people, not just a car to come up for 20 people.
But I would agree with Steve that I don't think Route 100 is as much, I think it represents probably the biggest promise we have as far as commercial combination of residential, and and Route 1 kind of sorts itself out of what can be done. The biggest open space now is Skyline Drive, which is right on the border of, and there might be some really good possibilities. But Main Street is a third rail. It's another version of affordable housing in that there's a huge history on that. And you remember, we had a referendum back, what was it, Steve? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, where the public indicated that they wanted that less restricted than anywhere else. And so the famous powwow with Main Street was developed where where compromises were made, such were ours, and that's kind of been the basis where decisions have been made similar to what we did with the. So, maybe one of the things that there are enough population is turned over, conditions have changed, in the last 20 to 25 years that as a committee, we may need to put our hand on that third rail in Main Street and say, is it time that we do make some changes? But you're gonna hear a howl from the Main Street residents that said that we made this commitment 25 or 30 years ago, and now, and I'm not sure Bridget doesn't have some valid points on this. What ultimately 20 years from now, and that's what we're doing, what do we want Main Street?
Bill, you were an active participant, I think, when the TCD was created and we loosened up the strict anti-business zoning aspects of that part of town. And I think an effort at great lengths was made to come up with a compromise to allow some businesses limits on size and hours of operation, lighting, and associated parking. It seems to have generally worked out.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
Yeah, I think when I hear the changes that we're talking about, it's like, is maybe there's tweaks around the edges or something like that, like you allow some more seats or you. Hold on, or maybe you change the hours or something like that, right? There's maybe we're hearing different things from, different businesses or whatever that are trying to get in there. But let's hear what those are in there. But really what it was there was a history in there of, not going through and contract zoning each property, right? And then setting up for where people were setting the boundaries of that town center district based on the residents that are there. Because, right, there was a lot of movement to continue to, right, and just kind of sprawl out these businesses up and down the street. And that's not what that is, right? It is a largely residential neighborhood. There's some businesses in it. And that's still the way, right? That's the way it is. So, right, you look, there's what, 6 businesses on Main Street? And how many other houses are there?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think the part that I had my face lost its ability to take it. I don't think the compromise is necessarily working right now, especially when a new business comes in. And so I can tell you that Bill Longley got an email within 24 hours of the Daily Bar being open. And I think we got 5, get like the neighbors are, for lack of a better word, I guess we're being recorded, but we have some very, very, very unhappy neighbors and abutters. And also their
I love that place.
They're upset about the lighting. It's the same thing that happened with Rise. Oh, like I can forward you some emails. It's not a great situation. And their expectation is that we are addressing this here as well. Because that's what we told them during the Rise Pizza is that we are not going to change. We're not going to make an exception for one business. Right, for an entire zone, which isn't the right call, I don't think, right? And
no, I'm just thinking, we're having a really great debate on certain aspects that I think we're hoping to solicit. So am I hearing that we're gonna have like a commercial zone feedback table? And then yours is different, yours is this town infrastructure?
Town infrastructure.
You'll have the jars.
Yeah.
When did you guys ban dancing? Was that?
They made a movie about it.
Ah, good.
Still can.
Remember that movie?
James.
Is there an activity, I'm still like thinking about activities, is there an activity sort of like the housing pictures that are like, what commercial operations would you like to see in Cumberland, or a mapping activity that's like, these are commercial zones? Like, do you like that or do you not like that? Where, should we do that again? I mean, I'm
Showing pictures of what things should look like. in there.
Because
That's,
like I mean, if there is one person who's like, I don't like the Daily Bar, and then there's like, we put the photo in the plan of like 45 green dots that are like, this is a great place for a business.
It's the whole.
Is that,
It's the whole neighborhood. It's not just one person,
Well,
like, or.
okay,
that's
but
all
that
I'm
would
saying
be
is that-
interesting to, like, I don't know that driving down the street.
Totally, and I think if there could be also maybe some, and I can grab my notes from the Rise Pizza because it was a really interesting neighborhood meeting. We had people that were vehemently in favor of extending the hours, you know, parents who want to take their kids out for pizza after a football game, right? And then you also have the people that live next door and were promised something when the TCD was created and now what's happening, whether that be, even if the business closes at 9, the noise doesn't stop until 11 because they're putting away trash and they're, you know, like it's, anyway. And so, sorry, I'm not trying to be long-winded, but
No, I get
think,
it. It's
like, it would be good to, I think that you have the green dots, but what's so powerful, and I think what's really important about making this really, really big decision about the TCD or this recommendation is that we're hearing all sides of it because they're both really compelling sides.
Yeah.
And-
So what's the, how can we get that information? Or is there an activity that's helpful?
Well, I like the visual.
Can I make a recommendation on history? Because back in the sixties, where the Daily Bar is now, there was a pharmacy there. Okay, and then eventually it became a bank also, and there was plenty of traffic
Sun
going
savings.
on. And also Albie Fry, house you're in. He actually had an appliance center there in the very beginning where, you know, he was selling appliances, TVs and radios. My very first, you know, radio came from there that, you know, you could carry down the road. And, I mean, these people don't know our history of how things have changing. Would it help, and maybe you know this from other towns, would it help to have some history of how the buildings kept changing over time? And that these newer people will say, oh, they've really had something going on here for a long time, all these years.
Okay, well, I mean, it's true. There were slaughterhouses on Main Street.
Yeah,
Back in the day.
we had, you know, Osgood's pigs.
Yeah, sure.
For those younger people that haven't been here
But-
before, we had, you know, Osgood's, you know, the slaughterhouse, people brought their pigs. Actually, I mentioned it last night, I think, that I was little, but Dad took me with him over to Osgood's with our pigs, you know? Can you imagine the smell back then? So, and there was plenty of other farms you take.
and yet the neighbors survived.
Had tons of jerseys and whole scenes. I mean,
Kathy, what's interesting about what you're saying is, you know, we hear the kind of the refrain, you know, oh, I want Cumberland to remain the same, remain the same. Which Cumberland do you want to remain the same? Is it the appliance store?
Yeah.
Is it Rise Pizza? Is it a slaughterhouse? You know, I mean, it's like, we've had many iterations of Cumberland from a commercial standpoint, and you know, maybe we have some historical pictures of what Main Street looked like, what other parts of Cumberland look like, and then go, okay, what's the vision? And as tough as it's gonna be, we have an opportunity to be change agents, you know, in this comprehensive plan to create the vision of where do we see this town going?
you know, there's
And that's-
pictures to tell a story, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Thank
we
you for
really
that.
did have all this once upon a time.
I've got to ask this question. Does the Daily Bar violate the restrictions of the TCD?
Yeah.
It does? Oh.
Does the what?
We'll never see like two teams.
Doing a site plan for.
Wait,
budget.
how so? How could it be?
They have signs that are not permitted.
All right, no, let's talk about the shop itself.
And
It couldn't have been
outdoor
seating
food.
that violated zoning.
Outdoor
Oh,
seating
my
is
goodness,
not
really?
permitted.
That's what people are.
Wait, I can't hear.
Okay, what's the question?
Question is, did the opening of the Daily Bar violate the zoning restrictions of the TCD?
Yes,
How?
because they have more signs
No,
and they
no,
have
no.
offered outdoor seating in zoning law.
Yes, but at the point at which they applied for
When
and
they-
were permitted, none of
Yes.
that existed. So
I
the
can't
topic
answer that
is
question
back
because that was done by the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
Well, they'll, but if there were a problem, they'll-
Right, it was permitted and
so it meets, at least it met the zoning requirements at the time it opened.
as
And then-
far as I know of.
But now, because there are 4 chairs outside and an extra sign, the neighbors are
And the
complaining.
light is like, within the day, it was, the light's supposed to be, people forgot to turn off lights, right? So the light was supposed to be turned off at 9, it was still on at 11, that went into someone's bedroom. They were upset about that, and then the person put 4 Adirondack chairs out in front of the Daily Bar, and that violates their site plan, and it is,
Well, then there's a remedy.
there is a remedy, but what I'm poking at is that these neighbors are very angry because they don't want any of
Yeah.
this noise, any of this light. They feel, and these are people that moved in 20 years ago and have been living there, like, not as long as
And
the
it's
other
not,
house
and it's
is.
not just that business.
It's not just that business. Yeah, it was also
It's
Rise. It was,
Neighboring,
yeah,
it
it's,
as well.
it's the whole area, which is because to your point about it being 70% residential, the other business, like, it's really, it's awkward, it's tense, it's.
Yeah.
I do think this is why we have representation from across the entire town. This is why we take input from the entire town. It's important that one group of people not have a veto over development in our town. That is my opinion.
What does the TCD stand for?
Town center.
No dancing allowed.
So,
If you come to our side of Main Street, we have
Friday
night. So, yeah.
It wasn't so fairly recently that no new businesses were allowed.
Yeah,
on
sure.
Main Street, except for the grandfather church stop and.
into the town center.
So
So how do we give them what they need? to go?
we need an activity.
We need
Yeah.
some plans for November 18th, right?
So if you guys are okay with it, what I could do, because this conversation, obviously, there's a lot of layers to it. I have no problem throwing something at you that my staff comes up with. I have no pride of ownership. You guys can rip it apart. We can just do a dry run and you go, just like we did before. Cause I think it's kind of like, I think that will be more efficient for me to say to my staff, this is what I just heard. I've been taking notes. Right? Can we develop 3 to 6 activities that I can dry run? Let you guys react to them just like last time. We have plenty of runway. We have more runway than we do to the other one. And then let us refine. So if you guys are cool with just telling me and Bridget to go make up the things.
Yeah, please.
And then you react to them, then I think that will be the easiest, and I'm happy to do it. My only concern is I'm away at Maine Leadership Camp next week, so like
Get some ideas there.
yeah.
Doing
You know what? I already did the Outlook back. We're now doing I'm doing the tour of Down East, so it's gonna be a long, yeah, I'm excited, except I'm super stressed out. But to your point, maybe that's what I'll do.
I think
Yeah.
I like, and I know that we've talked about this, and if we just get a little bit of buy-in, I think we're okay to run. Like a visual preference, and I know I keep using like the Hannaford Bow Street Market.
Yeah.
So, but that kind of visual preference type thing, with all
Yes.
sorts of different businesses, all sorts of different sizes, and then like what we're doing with the housing.
Yes, exactly.
Is
That's what I'm saying.
make okay, I know what I like.
Yeah.
What do I like where?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I think we have the exact, just analogous activity. that we
And
do
the
here.
limited resources, but the pennies in the jar. I mean, we already,
Yes.
let us,
Yeah.
we'll do, if you guys are cool with it, we'll end this agenda item by saying, we will come to you and then we'll get you on your feet, we'll walk through it and we'll do the exact same thing to do that.
You mean we're not the only town who has this issue?
But I think mirroring the sort of like,
Yeah.
if you were inventing where you wanted stuff to happen, where would you put businesses and what the businesses you'd like to see? Yeah, and seeing where those
And
stuff.
I'll see if I can get Kevin.
And you can say,
And the fourth
Degrees of
grade.
separation.
no, that was so cute. Give us places to go.
How many more agenda items do we have?
If you guys are cool with that, I think we
Yeah.
pretty much
That's it.
kind of have it. I, like, breakdown, just a little concerned with the timeline, so I'll be gone, but we'll.
Well, in 2 weeks, we will be 3 days post our first event. So I feel like we'll have a lot of will also be wanting to
We'll have a lot of
talk
like debrief.
about.
Oh, that's,
Debrief.
so my dry run doesn't have to be as robust.
Yeah, because we'll be talking
Okay,
about the
that,
20th.
that puts me at.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so. We'll have the November.
Get with it.
Yeah, we have plenty of time. Okay, so you guys go with that? It sounds like I have enough. I took notes. I hear everything. So I think, and we'll come up with like 5 different ones, knowing we might cut one or add or whatever. And just like, last time we'll do it.
And we're in West Cumberland.
Wait, what? On the
In
18th.
November.
In November.
In November
November.
18th for that workshop. So that up in your head changes things.
I'll have to go see it.
Mhm.
Just a commentary on the West Cumberland one. I get that we're trying to do that. Are we going to get the traffic there that we get here? Whereas so that, I guess that's just the.
Well, I think that we don't need shots and visas, so that's a start.
I mean, I don't think so, but I think we should. It was pretty busy when we did that.
Well, the council has had meetings at West Cumberland to hear things and, we fill the place.
Yeah.
So,
And I think given the topic of commercial zoning, it would be.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great idea.
It's far better to do it
Then not.
than not.
Yeah.
Than to have somebody tell you in public that you ignored our area of town.
No, it's
We
good.
have a history of doing so, yada, yada.
But we don't have to go to East Cumberland. No, there's nowhere to go.
Well, there was a
Yeah.
place I mentioned this.
The church, right?
Forsyth Church.
Yeah.
The basement
Forsyth
of Forsyth Church.
Oh,
We've met there before.
Yeah.
Did we do snacks for
Is
the
Uh,
that-
West Cumberland?
Mentioned it several times, but no, there was snow on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did that for the roundabout. I think Brenda organized it, but we did the roundabout meeting in West Cumberland. The catering. Yeah.
I can come.
I would just think of
I can't go.
All right, folks, are we pretty much done for the evening?
I think we have one more agenda item,
What is it?
the joint workshop,
Oh my God.
that like a new,
I just put that,
No, it's-
Oh,
I
I
think
put
that's,
a reminder.
yeah,
oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
there's nothing on the due board.
It's not legal. Because it doesn't say legal.
I'll move we adjourn.
Okay,
Second, third.
those in favor? Right, we're adjourning at 7:30.
Nice.
Yay. Good meeting.
See you next time.
Thank you.
When is like the 10-year anniversary of Broad Cove? Do you even know? Is it coming up? 10-year anniversary of Broad Cove?
Referendum or?
I'm just opening. When we were talking about this, made me think, some of the public comments against Broad Cove. People are like, oh, it will destroy the town. You know, and it's such a great, you know,
Hi, Bill.
yeah, so I think